Pardon me and my tone. You can't step to my throne. They ain't working like me. I did this on my own. You asking where we been, huh? I don't know where to begin, huh? All this dirt on my skin. I just came here to win. I'm more than a man, I'm a monster. Somebody call a pastor, doctor. I got a sixth sense for imposters. So now I'm coming for the whole roster. It's not a game, why you playing with me? You could double back, lose track, try and hang with me. It must be in my veins, something you can't tame, cause I break the chains. Can't control me. I got the power.
Welcome to the Talkin VAWLS Network. My name is the Indie Kid.
I'm Dauber. What's happening?
Just not really sure what I watched just now, but I did watch a 66-60 somehow victory for the Tennessee Vols tonight. I don't opening thoughts on it. I still got to gather mine a little bit. What's your opening thoughts here?
Man, just an ugly, ugly game. We've talked about it. If this team's not hitting buckets, they are struggling. Defense does just enough to turn Ole Miss over all night long. That's the only reason they were in this game, because Ole Miss could not stop turning the ball over. Defense was good in forcing, some 10-second calls, some shot clock violations. But yeah, got a couple guys in the chat talking about taking the ball to the hole. Yeah, absolutely. This team needs to drive the ball, at least drive and then dish back out. Last season, it was mid-range jumpers. They settled for mid-range jumpers so often. This season, they're hacking up threes left and right. At one point, I think they were 2 or 3 for 20. Again, we talked about that. What game was it that they couldn't hit anything?
Texas Tech.
I mean, I don't get it. If it's not working, you got to try something else. You can't keep beating a dead horse. But I did just enough to get it to overtime, and then Santee, he came alive there at the end, and a W's a W at the end of the day. So,
yep. No creativity.
Yeah,
it's all or nothing with the 3-point shot. No driving to the hole. Nobody wants it. I did kind of see it. I thought Chandler wanted it at the end, but I mean, he pulled up and took a 3-pointer. There's no creativity. The offense is horrible, and nobody's consistent. I guess your most consistent guys, Vescovy, and man, he's frustrating.
Yeah.
He is frustrating because I admire that he's not lacking for confidence, but he's so indecisive at times, and it almost cost them the game at the end, where he kind of went dry and just went flopping, and then it became a jump ball, and then. I don't know how they didn't lose at the end of regulation. It's a very frustrating team, and this team is reminding me a lot of last year's team at this point. Their shooting sucks, and there are shooters sitting the bench who can't get on them because they can't play freaking defense. I guess we're going to grind it out the rest of the year and just hope to score 60 points and win. To hell with the offense. Let's just play defense. At least they're doing that. But, I'm going to go ahead and declare it. It might be no holds barred night on Mr. Rick Barnes tonight. And, a win's a win. I'll take it. Senseless. Ole Miss's leading scorer was out. a couple other guys were out. Tennessee had a full team and barely got the job done tonight.
Yeah.
Rick Barnes has got to look in the mirror and fix this offense. And you got guys sitting over there that he won't play because they don't play the best defense in the world.
I tell you, one thing that stuck out to me tonight, and as much as I love Fulkerson and you know, love his motor and his heart and his attitude, I don't think he's 100%. And I think he was struggling tonight. He just wasn't himself. And I think having him on the floor as much as he was out there actually hurt the team.
You notice he wasn't in late.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't. I don't know if it's a case of where he and Chandler had COVID last week. He hasn't recovered from that. Or I'm assuming they had COVID. I don't guess it was just protocol. I thought it was they had tested positive.
That's what I thought as well.
But yeah, I mean, you go from Arizona, the game he had, and then tonight it was just. I mean, he made some bad decisions tonight as well on numerous occasions. I mean, sometimes you take what you can get, and a win is a win. But this team's in trouble right now. And going to LSU Saturday, they're going to have their work cut out for them. And I was actually encouraged after Alabama, even though it was frustrating, and they could have won that game. But Rick Barnes and his personnel, he does not know how to manage this team and their personnel.
Yeah.
And again, if it's all about defense, then your Meshack needs to be out there playing consistently because every time that guy comes in, he boosts the team. He was in briefly tonight. He was in briefly at Alabama, and he boosted the team. You know, guys that supposedly aren't playing, or I don't know. There's other guys not playing defense also that are still out here playing. And, you know, you got a 5-star NBA point guard, first-round NBA point guard, but who's not handling the ball a whole lot now all of a sudden. And I like Ziegler. Don't get me wrong. Love him. Love what he's bringing. I want the ball in Kennedy Chandler's hands. So that's what you brought him there for. This guy's supposed to be that point guard for you. And he's playing off guard most of the night.
Well, you had Vescovi running the point a number of times tonight. So it's just it is questionable. And that's, you know, there's been multiple games this year. And you know, you go back to last year, that there are some things that cause you to scratch your head when it comes to Rick Barnes and his coaching and his game management. You know, you look at the time tonight. You look at a couple of games earlier in the season when things aren't going well, and you just let them play it out. You don't call a timeout. You don't tell them to set up something on the offensive end. You know, you talk about the rotations and having odd guys out there, guys in odd positions. I don't know. It's just one of those head scratchers, man. I do think, you know, we see the potential for this team, and then you see a game like tonight. And that's did you see the graphic? I meant to take a picture of it during the game, where they were comparing the wins, the stats in wins versus the stats in losses. I mean, that's
huge difference.
That's a tell of the tape right there. It's two completely different teams when this team is playing well and when they're not.
Yeah. I saw it's like almost a 30-point difference.
Yeah.
In scoring. And now, of course, I don't think you can expect them to come out and score almost 90 per night, but still, yeah, that's a drastic difference. And
but why can't you? That's what good teams do.
Yeah.
That's what good offensive teams do.
Got a point.
And this team, you know, we had hoped when the Villanova game happened that it was just a case of, oh, everybody's off tonight and that's not going to happen again. But man, there's just so little consistency from game to game, and that's troubling because you get to March and you're not playing for the next game because it's win or go home.
Yep. That's absolutely right. And yeah, I mean, Barnes made mention this week something about, well, our shooting is down from last year. Yet at the same time, he says, well, Justin Powell is not playing because of defense. Which is it, Rick?
Right.
Which is it? I mean, I get it. I mean, but still, I go back to the Alabama game, and supposedly Powell couldn't get on the court because of defense, yet you had Victor Bailey out there for it. Give me a break, man. I mean, it's just foot and mouth, it seems like, with him, and it just doesn't make sense a lot of times.
You look at tonight, I can think of right offhand 2 layups, point-blank layups off of steals. One was Bailey, and one was
Vescovy.
Yeah. You got to finish. You got to finish. And I think that might be why this team is afraid to take it to the rim, to draw contact, because they don't finish at the rim.
It's amazing. They don't have those guys who can
play through the contact.
Who do you have? Yeah, I mean, you've got Kamwa who could probably go in and muscular enough to either put on a good dunk or to call something. I mean, these guards, man.
He's got butterfingers.
Yeah.
How many passes tonight went right through his hands? Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. Kamwa and Uros, when he got in, he had a couple good plays. Both of those guys are playing better than they have at Tennessee. But I mean, you're in conference play now. It's not time for projects and, getting guys minutes to build their confidence. You got to have guys out there performing.
No, I totally agree. Let me hit this super chat here real quick. Dustin Sellers, $5. Thank you, Dustin. I've never seen a team get turnovers, then immediately give it right back with a bad pass or bad shot. Terrible pass as Santee was falling at the end of regulation. Man, there could not be a more true statement than that. The numerous times they got turnovers in a matter of seconds, it's going right back the other way. And yes, Santee, man, he's got a case of getting careless at times. And I mean, sometimes you got to give him, I don't know, you got to give him a seat sometimes to calm him down, I think. And I'm a Vescovy fan. I'm a Vescovy. I like him. I think he's a good player, but he's careless at times. And I don't know. I just think there's guys on this team I feel are held to standards that others are not. And I obviously, you give the veteran a lot more leash than you do a younger guy or a new guy to the program. And I'm not saying Powell nor Huntley Hatfield's the savior, but man, I'm pretty disappointed in the development of these guys up to this point. And I'm tired of hearing, well, Huntley Hatfield should be in high school now. Yeah, Ziegler should be too. So, I mean, is it buy-in from Hatfield? Is it? I don't know. I'm not seeing. Well, I don't know. Kamwa has made improvement. He's inconsistent, but I don't know. That seems to be the case with the front line.
To me,
the front court.
There's not much of a difference. There's more upside to playing the young guy.
All things equal, if I'm looking at a veteran and a young guy who are pretty equal, yeah, I'm playing the young guy because at that point your veteran guy probably is who they are.
Yeah, I completely agree.
And I don't know. I've seen these questions before. Let me find it here. I don't see the point, man, because Fulkerson's gone after this year. I don't think there's any other super seniors. I'm still not sure on Bailey, but I think Bailey can come back. But Euros will be back. Kamwa will be back. I think Huntley, Hatfield, and Adu should have big roles next year. But again, I don't know that I'm trusting Rick Barnes and his rotations. I think Rick Barnes is what he is. And, I had a video earlier in the week. What's Rick Barnes' ceiling? People said he can win it. What has he shown you? It's going to win. And I'm not one that says he has to win it to be successful, because Tennessee, first of all, Tennessee's never even been to a Final Four. So expecting Barnes has been to what, one? So expecting Barnes to win one's asking too much, but a Sweet 16 or something along those lines. Again, I said it last year. I thought maybe he had evolved. I thought he had saw something with the way he built this team. It's the same thing, man. It's Groundhog Day all over again, in my opinion. Not seeing anything different. Same problems. Thought the front court may be fixed. It's not. You bring in a 5-star first-round pick, and the more it's gone along, he handles the ball less. And again, I like Ziegler. I like both point guards, but still yet, I don't know.
Well, and Boosted 931 brings up where I was going to take this. You talk about what has Rick Barnes done. I mean, he's kind of changed the landscape of Tennessee basketball to be a destination for elite caliber players. But I think you've got to take that next step and find some of that postseason success for that to continue. You look at right now, and I think the NIL has a lot to do with it. And, I think he's very hesitant about that. He's old school. And the recruiting for next season, man, you've talked about Edwards, and that's. I mean, like you said, there isn't going to be a lot of room for guys, but
they got slaughtered in recruiting. I mean, other than Edwards, they got taken to the woodshed this year.
You need to have a true big guy. You need to have a presence down low, and right now, like you said, Huntley Hatfield is not getting enough time. He's not developing because he's not on the floor. So where does this team go? How does this team evolve and get better and take that next step when you look at what next year could potentially be with what is committed right now? Man, I don't know. It makes games like tonight and some of the in-game coaching decisions that Barnes makes that much bigger of a head scratcher.
Yeah, you've got Edwards coming in, and I like that pickup. I think he's going to provide a lot, especially with, I think it's pretty much a given Chandler's going to leave. I'll be honest, Chandler recently has not looked like an early impact player to me in the NBA. He's going to be a first-round pick, I think. But each time I see a mock draft, he keeps sliding down a little bit. So, I don't know if it's part injuries. I don't know if it's, obviously the last week's been COVID, but I don't know. I would like to see him I would like to see him be the guy. I think he wants to be the guy, but I don't know. I think he can be the guy as well. But development of big guys has been a problem, I feel like, since Grant Williams. We saw Fulkerson dominate kind of toward the end of the COVID year. But since that, though, just like you go back to Alabama last week, Huntley Hatfield out of the gate, 8 points. And then Barnes says, well, he makes a couple lackadaisical plays. Let's don't play him again the rest of the game. But there's other guys makes those same lackadaisical plays. We might set them for a couple minutes, and then they're back in again. Yeah, the young guys are going to make mistakes. I get it. You get frustrated with them. But, I hate the fact that they'll make a mistake or two, and then they just don't go back in.
Right.
It's such a short leash with them, and that's an old school mentality. It is what it is. I think there's too much old school, and again, I think Rick Barnes, he's a good coach. He's forgotten more about basketball than I'll ever know, and I've seen a comment or two are being too negative on it. It is what it is. Okay, we're analyzing it. We're calling it like it is on this, and there's a lot. I think most people are kind of in agreement on it. There's just a lot of questions. There's a lot of unknown. A lot doesn't make sense. And number one, I'd like to know what the base offense of this team is, what the goal of it is. Number two, are there any other options? Everything revolves around the three-point shot. Like you said, last year it was the mid-range jumper. This year it's the three-point shot. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you look at the build-up, how this team is built, though, and we talked about driving to the lane. I mean, who's that guy that can get in there and make it happen, though? I mean, that's one thing I think with this team. I thought maybe they had some guys to do that,
but they shot 8 free throws against an Ole Miss team that was down 3 guys. Came into the game, way undermanned, short bench. They got the one kid, I think, in early foul trouble, had 2 early in the first half, but then just quit taking the ball at him. I mean, I don't know. To me, that's poor coaching.
It's been a common.
You exploit the advantages, and they were short staffed tonight. Foul 1 or 2 of them out, and you're gonna have guys cramping up all night long. You're gonna be able to blow by them on a take to the basket because they're having to play the whole game. But instead, I don't know. It's just to be old school. That doesn't make sense.
No, and I've seen something saying, well, they have a base offense. Look at Arizona. That was the exception, not the norm. Okay, look at Villanova. Look at Texas Tech. Look at Alabama. Look at Ole Miss tonight. It just looks to me like fire 3.
Yep.
Not a whole lot. I mean, a guy gets open, and I thought they would be a better shooting team than they are. They're not. They're not that great of a shooting team this year. They come out starting of the year, it looked like, all right, so this is going to be a shooting team. But, man, this team just keeps regressing, I feel like. And, I don't – it kind of sucks to be negative on a night where you win. But, man, when Ole Miss is short their leading scorer and 2 more guys, and you had to go to overtime, frankly, I don't know how they won that game tonight. It was
Ole Miss had 27 turnovers. That's how they won the game.
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing. That's their calling cards, defense, because it sure as hell isn't offense.
Here's the thing, and this is deserved. I know we got some guys fired up in the chat here. You go 10 of 34 from 3. That's not working. That's not work. If Ole Miss would have shot any better than they did and not turned the ball over, we get ran out of our home gym.
Actually, Ole Miss was 11 out of 22 from 3
50%.
and 44 from field goal. That's not too bad. It was like the turnovers. If it hadn't been for the turnovers, I mean, if Ole Miss would have had half that turnovers, yeah, like I said, I mean, what happens if Ole Miss's main guys are there?
Yeah.
Run out of the gym. I agree with you. I mean, I don't know what the answer is for it. And maybe it's a case of, listen, I know Barnes can't shoot the ball, and they're missing open looks at times. But, I get that. I understand it. And maybe it's a case of these guys are so frustrating you can't figure out from one night to the next. But, man, there is some talent, at least on paper, on this team. And I feel like for going on 2 years, obviously it's a different team this year than last, but it's a lot of the same things. Trouble figuring out rotations, trouble figuring out who wants it. I mean, last year I kind of felt Springer and Keon stepped up as guys who wanted it a bit. I think Vescovy wants it, but
he's so inconsistent. You look at him first half tonight, and then the final 5 minutes in overtime, completely different person, completely different guy on the court. It's Saturday at LSU, and then you've got Auburn twice, you've got Kentucky twice.
Auburn will run Tennessee out of the building both times. I mean, it's proven Bruce Pearl has Rick Barnes' number. Anyhow, that goes back to when Tennessee and Texas played back years ago. And every time Barnes and Pearl play, Pearl has his number.
So
I
hate to say it, but I'm not looking forward to this big stretch run of conference games. Because from the sample that we've seen up to this point, there's going to have to be something completely different.
Let's see. I missed a super chat. Let me go back and hit it here. William Hughes, I apologize for delaying that. I guess we're on a rant here, so to speak. But William Hughes for $10. Thank you very much. What the hell? So hard to watch. How can so much talent play so horrible? 47 field goals, 46 turnovers. Hard to watch. Pretty much sums it up. I mean, that's I don't know. Maybe this team right now, I mean, maybe they're just in a funk right now. And again, honestly, it's not going to matter till late February, March. How you're playing on January the 5th ultimately does not matter. And I get that. But I don't know, man. I don't have a lot of confidence right now in what I'm seeing. And I actually was encouraged by how they played at Alabama. Should have won that game, but I mean, it was kind of the same stuff. Mistakes cost them that game. But, winning in the conference is tough on the road, but you got to do it. The good teams do that. So, I mean, we can sit and say it's hard all night long. Life is hard, but you got to deal with it sometimes. You got to figure out a way.
Well, and the frustrating thing is we've seen this team play, at their potential, and they play with, you talk beating Gonzaga, beating Arizona, playing with these big schools and these basketball powerhouses neck and neck, and then you play a team like Ole Miss tonight, and a team that has almost 30 turnovers, and it goes to overtime. It's just, and it's, don't get me wrong. I don't think it's a lack of effort, because these guys are busting their tail. They're playing hard. It's execution. I don't think it's even a lack of talent. I just think that, they're just not hitting shots. At the end of the day, they're just not hitting shots. So I don't know how you fix that.
No, I mean, and like I said, maybe it's a case of they get hot later on. Maybe it's just kind of that stretch right now, but it's eerily similar to last year when conference. I mean, this team come in, a lot of people were saying that's a difference in last year and this year. Last year coming in, people were saying this is a potential one of the best teams in the country. They're not, but I mean, people are high on this team, especially after the Arizona game. Well, now we saw Alabama, which, I mean, they had their reasons for that one. I think it could have been different with Fulkerson and Chandler, but at the same time, those two guys played tonight, and it was just I mean, maybe it's, I don't know. Somebody said that, maybe they played to the competition. I mean, teams do that. That's possible. Not ruling it out, but Let's see. I had another super chat here. Had a couple of them. All right. Joshua Harmon, I hate to say this, Fulkerson just hasn't been useful when we truly need him outside Arizona, or post play is abysmal. Oh, I didn't highlight. Let me highlight. There we go. That's really his big. I mean, he's had a couple games around 10 points, but he went off that game. And I saw where Arizona's game plan was to make him beat them, and he did that night. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, hats off to him for that, but it wasn't there tonight. Yeah, post play. Again, the biggest one I'm disappointed is that Huntley Hatfield's not a bigger, having a bigger effect than he is. I thought he would have had a bigger one. Again, I don't know who that's on. If that's on him, if that's on Barnes or what, but you know, he's a guy who should have been coming in this year. I get that. He was a top 5, top 10 consensus. Even reclassified, he was around 20, top 25. So that's still a 5-star 25. That should still be an instant impact player, in my opinion. If you're a 5-star, again, I have a rant about this. I go back to these rankings. If a guy is not an impact player, he should not be a 5-star. Instant impact. Now, I mean, guys fly under the radar like a Ziegler who's coming in and making an impact on it. Not saying he should be a 5-star, but you know, sometimes guys get ranked that 5-star. You see it as, well, he's coming in to be instant impact, and then you see the scouting report and it says, well, a work in progress. That's not a 5 right there. And these guys who do it should know better than that. And hang on, let me hit one more super chat here and I'll turn it back over to you. Bionic Clay, $10. Thank you. We need to start driving the lane and trying to draw fouls at least. Only 8 free throws is terrible. Glad with the win, but we need to be driving tougher. Yeah, I mean, we're all happy with the win. May not sound like it, but at the same time, we come on here to analyze the game and what we saw. And other than actually the win, what did they say? With a minute or so to go, maybe 2 minutes ago, Tennessee had led 2 minutes and 13 seconds the whole game. Yeah. And that is in overtime that they said this.
Yep. It's tough. It's tough to come on here and talk about it right after, because if they didn't pull it out, I've mellowed out just a little bit from where I was, but I don't get it. I don't get why, as a coaching staff, you allow a game to devolve into where it was, and having such a poor performance shooting. You know, I remember, heck, even in rec ball, if we were playing horrible, coach would just empty the bench, sit everybody. If it's not working, change something up.
I don't get that with these coaches. And this is football, this is basketball, both. You got guys just crapping the bed, and you can't put somebody. I mean, what's the worst that's going to happen? They're going to do as bad. I mean, I guess it can always be worse, but yeah, I mean, there's times you got to send a message, and I think at this point they're probably trying to redshirt some guys. Like an Adu, like a Jabonje. They've not played that many games nor minutes. So, those red shirts are still intact because they can play so many games. I can't remember. I was thinking it was like 8 to 9 games. But still yet, I mean, your guys like Huntley Hatfield, the red shirt's off. Powell, the red shirt's off.
Some of the guys that are playing consistently need a fire lit under them.
Yeah.
And if it takes seeing somebody else out there in their spot, I don't know what you're going to do. But like I said, looking ahead at what's on the schedule, if this team plays like we've seen them in some games, they're just going to be ugly. But if it's a team that shows up that played against Arizona, I mean, it's just so puzzling to be, at such a level, and then you come out a week later and look like a completely different team.
Night and day. I mean, we're at that point of the year. We really don't know which team's going to show up from night to night. And I think there's been signs of that along the way, but the way they had the schedule set up, they'd play a tough team. They may have 2 or 3 games where they could kind of have a little bit of an off night and still it not show up a whole lot. But now we're getting in that zone where and I don't think Ole Miss is that bad of a team. They're 8-4 coming in, but still, the thing that bothered me about the whole thing, and you mentioned it, we both talked about it. Leading scorers out, 2 other guys are out there coming in short, and Kermit Davis was talking about. If we got 7 guys, we're going to go to Knoxville and give what we had. I mean, hats off to him with his game plan. Coached a great game tonight, and now their turnovers killed them. But from what I'm gathering, they were short point guards.
Yeah.
Tonight. That makes a big difference, but hard to make up for that. And I'd say I had a lot if you don't have your main ball handlers, if that's the case. But I don't know. I'm like you. Some of these guys need fires lit on them. Sometimes they're lethargic. Sometimes they just go through the motions. We're seeing the same thing from some guys, just making the same careless plays. I don't know. It just seems like it's a double standard a lot of times. And, you know, I've seen a little bit about, well, Rick Barnes gets fired. Rick Barnes is going to finish his contract in Knoxville. He's got 3 years left on it. I think that includes this one. I could be wrong about that. And then I expect probably at that point it'll be about time. I don't know. I mean, maybe he keeps going. I don't know on that, but it's going to get to a point where he retires. And I also wonder, you know, losing English and Oliver, how much that hurt this year as well. I think that hurt more in recruiting because we saw some of the same problems with those guys last year.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, post game was non-existent. I would say it's better this year than it was last year, but still, yeah, there's just there's something missing from this team. I don't know if it's that alpha like we talk about or what. I really thought it would be Chandler. I really thought he would be the alpha, but I don't really think he is. I think if it's anybody, it's Vescovy, but too, when he takes at least 10 3-pointers per game on it. Not much driving ability. I mean, an alpha can get it done in all aspects of the court.
But when Vescovy drives, this is my one complaint about him. If he's driving to the basket, he either picks up his dribble before he knows what he's going to do, or he jumps before he knows what he's going to do, and then he throws it wildly, tries to make a circus pass, or man, it's just, you know, I think it comes down to execution, because the talent's there, the ceiling and the potential is there, but it's just the execution isn't happening on a consistent basis.
At this point in time, and based on what you've seen out of the season, if you're Rick Barnes, who's your first 5? Who do you rotate in and how at this point?
Man, I think
not to put you on the spot or nothing, you know.
I think you got to go Chandler, Fulkerson, Vescovy. I guess Kamwa and James. I think you run with those guys, and if Fulke doesn't recover and bounce back a little bit quicker, I think you put Hatfield in and let the kid grow. You know, I think Powell coming off the bench is good. But what was he tonight?
He had 3 points.
3 points. So he hit the one shot.
Mhm.
You know, it's it's puzzling because there's so much talent on this team, and we talked about it early in the season. Um, Good problem to have. You know, how deep is this bench going to run? But man, I don't know that he's found that combination. And at this point in the season, I think you got to have that figured out.
I agree, and of course you got to have Ziegler in there as
Yeah.
well, I believe. But I mean that starting five sounds good to me, and then with Hatfield and Powell and Ziegler, and I would like to see those five guys starting held to the same expectations that these three guys coming off the bench are held to.
Yeah.
I mean Powell and Hatfield. It's like there's no leash on them. You make a mistake, you're out. You don't guard one time, you're out. Yet I'm watching other guys get blown by on a consistent basis, or I don't want to say consistent, but they're getting blown by as well and nothing. I just that's my whole problem with the whole thing. I don't necessarily. I mean, Barnes has got his philosophy. It's his team. I get that, but you know, at the same time, some of the comments and stuff just does not make sense. And you know, I don't know what the fix is for it. I think that and you got to have some creativity though on your offense.
Yeah.
Instead, I think they're so set on defense. It's like, well, I mean, I know a lot of good. I'm so sick of that. Well, defense wins championships.
You still got
2021. It's 2022. You got to score points. That
Still
that
gotta
old
score
adage is
points.
out the door. Yeah, I mean, you got to play decent defense, but you know, this isn't Baltimore Ravens with Trent Dilfer as a quarterback anymore. This is 2022. This is a scorer's game now. The game is set up to score. If you're wanting to win on defense, you're still stuck back in the early 2000s or 90s for that matter.
Well, and that's the thing. You look at you look at this game tonight, and you look at shooting 29% from 3-pointer. I mean, that's what the game has become. The game has become, you know, a 8 foot and out game. It's a shooter's game, but to play that, you got to have guys hitting the shots. And you know, I think I said it after the Villanova game. You know, I think this team is going to live by and die by the three, and that's been proven multiple times this season already. It's just strange. Like you said, there's very little creativity, or they just don't seem to have anything that they can run like a set offense out of. It's, you know, and they don't run a whole lot of transition offense. To be that good on defense, you're not getting a bunch of breakout layups or quick transition buckets. It's coming down and hacking up a three. I mean, it's not even really. Some of them are good looks, but I mean, they're taking a lot of threes that aren't, you know, great looks. They're blanketed and still hacking up a three.
Yeah. I mean, it's got somebody trying to prove me wrong that defense still wins championships. Yeah, you got to be able to play defense. I'm not saying you can just be abysmal at defense, but I mean, come on, man. You got to be able to score. The Golden State Warriors, number one, the NBA doesn't play much defense at all. The Golden State Warriors have got the greatest shooter in NBA history on their team. Just wait till they get Klay Thompson back. They're going to win because of offense. Yeah, they got guys who play defense, but, you know, if you can't score the ball against good teams, you are not going to win championships. Again, I'm not talking about national champion. I'm talking about SEC championships. I'm talking about if you want to win a conference tournament, if you go in to win that, yeah, you got to be able to play defense. I'm not saying you don't, but again, 21st century, you have got to be able to shoot. You've got to be able to score.
Well,
You got to be able to create.
And that's the thing. We've talked about, we threw out a kind of hypothetical 5 that we'd have out there. And there are nights when out of the 5 you've got out there, 2 of them are guys that are really handcuffing you on the offensive end. In Uros and Kamwa, they're guys that get the ball and immediately look to pass, and that's that's a problem. If you've got guys that don't want it offensively, they're a liability. Even if they're shutting it down on the defensive end, it's like playing down a man. They don't play penalty play in basketball, but it's you might as well be, because at times, and when you've got both of those guys in at the same time, you're down 2. Then that's a struggle. And then add in a couple guys that aren't having good nights. That's a recipe for disaster.
I mean, if you look at that starting 5, who stands out to you as the best offensive guy of the 5? Consistently,
Vescovy.
I would say so too. I think he's more consistent than Chandler is
right now.
And right now, I think he is. And then if you come those 3 guys off the bench, if you have Ziegler, you have Powell, you have Huntley Hatfield, I think those guys could play some offense a bit. But, I mean, Ziegler he plays a little bit on both ends, but we got 2 guys who are held to that standard. Well, they're not playing defense. Because, again, I say if we're so focused on defense, Meshack needs to be getting a lot more minutes. Because just when he comes in, he makes things happen. I mean, we don't know much about what his offensive game is, but if that's the case, I would like to see him out there. I would have honestly liked to have seen more of Jabonje along the way this year as well, because what little I saw, and I'm sure that, again, I think he's pretty highly a redshirt candidate down the line. I think they've got him a steal with him, just like they have with Ziegler. But, what's the focus? Is it defense or is it offense with this team? And I feel there's guys who have offensive games who maybe they're not the best defenders, but they're getting held back because of that. Right. And like I say, it's a double-edged sword on that, because sometimes, especially at that 5 you mentioned, it's 3-on-5 basketball. You bring Euros in, it's 4-on-5 at best.
Yeah,
for the most part.
It's just, I mean, there's got to be a little bit of give and take, because you got to get stops on one end of the floor, but you can get, 3 out of 4 stops, but you go down on your end offensively, and you're shooting 2 of 24 from 3-point line. At the end of the day, you're a math guy. How's that add up?
Not too good.
You're going to come out on the wrong end.
No, not very good at all. I mean, 2 out of 24, you're not even looking at 10%. Yeah. In that case, hardly.
So you hold them 3 of 4 every couple trips down the floor, but then they're hitting 50% like Ole Miss did from 3-point tonight.
I mean, if you look at a guy like, or a team like Villanova, and look what they did when they played Tennessee, even their guards were physical enough to back Tennessee down. And, they would drive, they would back down, they could shoot. You don't see that much with Tennessee. I mean, some of the post guys will back down, but this is not a strong team. I don't feel they're not. This is not your Grant Williams Schofield who could outmuscle anybody. Surprise, and that's what shocks me so much about that Arizona game. That was the 2nd biggest team in the country, and it looked like a bad matchup for them. But yet
the speed hurt Arizona. I think that gave them fits, and the way Tennessee came out the gates. You look at that big lead they built up, which, I mean, tonight, you talked about it. They led the game for 2 minutes, and this is like the last 2 minutes of overtime. Just couldn't find the offensive side of the floor tonight.
No, and I don't know. Again, maybe it's a case of the whole team's in a funk right now. Sometimes it happens. Just kind of looking back, we hadn't even looked over the stats with it. I kind of wanted to see again. I wanted to see these 99 points that Golden State gave up tonight. That great defense they played. But box score here. Let's see. All right, so you had Conway 13 points, 5 out of 7, 1 out of 1. Fulkerson 5, no rebounds. No rebounds.
And that goes back to my point. I think Fulkerson was maybe rushed back into playing tonight. I don't think he was effective out there.
No, and maybe that was the case at all. Vescovy, 17 points, 5 assists, 6 rebounds. Good game across the board. I think I'd like to see his turnovers. I'm not sure how many he had there. He put in a lot of minutes. I mean, the guy
2
pretty much played the whole game for the most part, except like 3 minutes.
He had 2 turnovers. Kennedy Chandler had 5 turnovers.
Yeah. Let's see here. Chandler had 6 points, 7 assists, 2 boards. James, 10 points, 8 boards. Huntley Hatfield, 3 minutes. Nothing. Euros, 4 points, 3 boards in 11 minutes. Ziegler, 8 points, 5 assists. Meshack, 6 minutes, 3 rebounds, no shots. Powell played 22 minutes, 3 points. So, he played. He didn't play as much as everybody, but he got minutes tonight. So, can't really complain about him not playing tonight. So there you go. Your main minutes guys: Vescovy 42, James 35, Conway 30, Chandler 28, Ziegler 28, and Powell 22. So I just don't think this squad. I just don't think there's an identity on offense.
Yeah,
I just don't. That's and I think that's what's going to hurt them in the end with it. Their offense. Because if defense was the deciding factor, they're what, number 1 or 2 in defensive efficiency? Okay, you can't get much better than that. So,
yeah,
and we'll see. Maybe that down the stretch does something. But you said it earlier about that graphic they put up, the wins versus losses. Okay, close to 90 points per game in wins. Under 60 in losses.
Yep. Well, and the other thing was the rebounding difference, and I think it was maybe the turnover difference in the wins and losses. So, it is when this team plays well, they're a very good team. When this team is off, it can get ugly.
Yeah. And I think that's going to be what it is for the rest of the year. It just is. It is what it is. It's going to be there'll be some nights where we're going to be like, man, this team was on tonight. They're not going to be off every single night. And, maybe a style of tempo that a team plays affects that as well. I think ultimately this team would rather run up and down a little bit, or at least that's the way they come out to start the year. I don't know. Like I said, until they get an identity on offense, and maybe their identity is to just shoot threes all night, left and right. That's kind of all I can figure on it, because otherwise,
hope they go in.
Yeah. Hope they go in. That's all. But let's see. Just Saturday night, Tennessee plays at 6. We will not be live on that. Just not in the cards this week. I have to travel. Very important to have to do that this weekend. Dauber, pretty busy as well. Got to do his thing as well. So we will not be live with you after the game Saturday night. That being on the road, it might be a good one to set out, actually. But we'll try to bring something Sunday. I think tomorrow evening when I get in, I will try to do a day after on this. But kind of talk about it, maybe bring that up a little bit. And then, maybe, I don't know. We'll kind of see. Basketball is a frustrating sport to cover. I'll be honest about it.
It's tough to come on right after a game, especially a game. Even though they came out with a W tonight, it's still hard to get on here and talk about it, just because of how frustrating and what a struggle it was to watch that game, just because of the poor shooting, the turnovers that Ole Miss had. There was never really a flow to the game.
No, and just a couple plugs before we go. Of course, Talkin VAWLS merchandise, bonfire.com/Talkin VAWLS. There's the TVA Jam shirts. I don't have the link pulled up on it. We have the Talkin VAWLS baseball, basketball, football, or not football, but just retro merchandise as well. So you can find that. All three of us plus the channel are on Twitter. There's the links for that on the bottom. I guess we're on Instagram as well, so we'll tweet that out. There's always the tweets going out for any videos going on, whether the hot season with football is kind of a lot of it Boogie's focused on. It's the transfer portal. If there's any other news, he'll hit that as well. Hopefully there's a video at some point. There was supposedly the Verse kid from Albany was supposed to be committing sometime today. It hasn't happened. I guess it could still happen at this point. Haven't seen anything else on that. The football post games, or not post game, but weekly, they're on since season's over. They're kind of on sabbatical, I guess, or hiatus right now. And if there's a need to go live, if anything comes up on that, we'll go live with that as well. Hopefully it's a low-key off season for the football team. Hopefully it's just getting better, getting prepared, and hopefully additions through the portal. Hopefully not
subtractions.
Losing guys. Yes, subtractions. Absolutely. But, we'll be with you along the way with basketball as much as we can. If we're not with you on live, we'll try to hit a post-game video the next day or even later in the evening on that as well. And it may be a case like the South Carolina game next month. I'm actually planning on going to that game since it's South Carolina. It may just be a case. Maybe we go live just later that evening instead of right afterward or something as well. But we'll let you guys know in advance on that. But we're about the 58-minute mark. Tennessee got it. Sometimes you got to get it done, and sometimes games like this can be a confidence booster to a team, knowing you didn't play your best, but you get the job done. So while it was frustrating, you still got to tip the cap to them. I will say they didn't quit, and the effort got it done because tough night on the offensive end, but tough one Saturday against LSU at 6. Again, no post game. Bring you something on Sunday, but he's Dauber. I'm the Indy Kid. This is the Talkin VAWLS Network. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Have a good evening. Go Big Orange.
That was all.